3. The other thing that's a nice segue for our other make or break player in, we talked about defensive line, defensive ends, that sort of thing. There's another guy, of course, Myles Murphy comes to mind, former first round pick, and that could be a guy we look at going forward, but I'm going a different route. Because it's a short-term deal, because he's been on this team for a handful of years. And, right now, this guy, I think they have, a good vision as an ancillary player, but kind of like in the mold of a Myles Murphy, Joseph Osai, that sort of thing, Cam Sample has to prove that he can stay healthy and he can be a guy that can be relied upon and be a versatile guy, kick inside on those passing downs, be, one of those set the edge against the run when he's out there on run plays, that sort of thing. Another player I like when he's, there's been a couple of games where, man, good play off the bench, man. Good job. But it's been inconsistent. There have been injuries. I will say that Cam Sample was recently cleared also to participate in workouts. So that's good news for him. But kind of one of those guys in a defensive coordinator transition year. They're looking to do some different things along the defensive line. I'm not saying I think he's going to be cut or anything like that, because I think they have a vision for him, but he's kind of got to step up and show that he can fit that mold and those different things they're going to ask him to do along the defensive line in order to have a long-term future with the Bengals. Again, a guy I like. I think you get one of these guys on your team. There was remember Frosty Rucker kind of did this sort of thing, and then Wallace Gilberry at times did this sort of thing as well. He hasn't performed necessarily to the same level as those guys statistically speaking, but still a valuable guy on the defensive line. But in terms of his long-term future for the Cincinnati Bengals, I think he has a lot to prove to Al Golden to say, hey, keep me here long-term. I'll still be a rotational guy, maybe a backup guy, but I'm a guy that's valuable on this defensive line.
He was someone, and obviously he got injured really early in training camp last year.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not like losing a star player by any means, but I think it was a loss that was felt kind of in waves, like here and there throughout the season, where they just lacked one or two more guys that were really, versatile or valuable on base downs and could hold the point of attack. And obviously, he's never really been a prolific pass rusher by any means, but someone who definitely fit the previous version of this defense. Obviously, he fit the physical mold of what Luna Rumo and Marion Hobby looked for in their defensive line, particularly off the edge. And that made me question whether or not Al Golden would want to have him in his new look defense. But the fact that they re-signed him so early in free agency, especially considering that he was a couple months away from being cleared from, I believe it was his Achilles that was injured. So like, it's not a nothing injury by any means.
Right.
And that said a lot to me, like that even if this is a new defense, they still foresee a vision of him fitting in it. And the early clips that we've kind of gotten from this defensive line, the early, sort of remarks that we've gotten from it, obviously there is a lot of different things going on schematically. There's a lot more twists and stunts, not only against the pass, but against the run. And I think those types of schemes specifically can help out a guy like Cam Sample, who isn't the most athletic guy, but if you position him to kind of loop around the edge and kind of go into a more inside angle where he doesn't have to be the most flexible guy, if he can try to convert speed to power in a more direct way, that can help him out in some of the situations. And obviously he's getting a ton of reps right now because you don't have Trey Hendrickson or Shamar Stewart out there. So it's him, Joseph Osai, Myles Murphy taking the line share, working next to guys like BJ Hill, who I think just got his boot off the other day. So I think he's either working back or he's basically all the way back to being fully healthy. But obviously TJ Sladen is there, Chris Jenkins, a lot of those guys that are expected to step up. And Cam Sample was, at least in my opinion, he was on the outside looking in before he resigned. But now that he's back, it seems like they do have a vision for him. And, I'm interested to see how they maximize the player that he is, because again, he's kind of, I don't even want to call him like a jack of all trades, because I'm not exactly sure what he does particularly well outside of just, being a physical guy who can hold himself against the point of attack. But if this new scheme can, better put these guys in positions to impact the quarterback and obviously, play well against the run, I'm interested to see where Cam Sample falls into that.
It's interesting what you brought up about, quietly missed last year. And I agree with you on that, especially when you look at the points given up against a team like the Ravens, right? And when you go back and you say, okay, even though he's a rotational guy, even though he's, an off the bench guy, what could he have provided in games like that? Could he have provided one more stop that would have gotten one more win and potentially the Bengals into the playoffs? Even if it was still splitting that series, could he have done that just by him? And like you said, there's nothing that is super wow about it, but he flashes a little bit of this, a little bit of that. He's got 5 sacks in 3 seasons. So again, nothing real wow there, but like you said, physically strong player. I think he's good at the point of attack and just does a little bit of everything. And that's what you kind of want from a reserve guy that you do want playing snaps. Again, this isn't so much, I think he's on the bubble, or I think he's safe as long as the injury from last year holds up and he proves that, he's healthy and can contribute. It's more about, okay, how much is he going to show this year to prove that he's going to be a long-term Bengal and or get in Al Golden's good graces to be a guy that he can rely upon in the specific roles he has designed for him going forward. That's my biggest question. And a guy, again, just like Jones, I like Cam Sample, but got to stay healthy and got to be able to contribute, particularly now with the edge questions, contractual questions with Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart.
It's just like May with the defensive line. It's just one of those position groups where it's going to look different in August, and there's just unfortunate injuries that are going to occur, and that's exactly what happened with Cam Sample last year. So the best thing that he can do is just stay in the mix and just stay upright and just stay on the field, because there's a really good chance that even if he's defensive end 5 right now, barely ahead of guys like Cedric Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Raymond Johnson. And of course, this is assuming that, once Shamar Stewart comes back, he's going to get reps in front of him. So right now, he's defensive end 3. So he's getting those reps and those looks right now. And if he can just stay on the field and stay healthy and stay able to practice and stay within everything that's going on, he has got a really good chance of being a contributor this year.
And I actually think that, this defensive coordinator, if things go according to plan and things improve, I actually think he could be a big beneficiary to the coaching change. And you could see a boost instead of that hovering, from 2021 through 2023, hovering around a sack to 2 sacks per year on average. I think he could be a beneficiary and you could see a nice boost from him, which would be great to see, but still has to stay healthy, has to prove that he can be a guy in the mix and be in the Bengals' long-term plans, aside from potentially just the short-term plans. But those are our 2 make or break players this week, which are Charlie Jones and Cam Sample. One on